All right, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be looking at configuring the navigation structure of a Doctave project. So that's this thing here on the left. Now, each of these tabs has its own navigation structure, and we're just going to be focusing on this particular one over here. Now, the first thing to know is that all of these navigation structures are defined in files called navigation.yaml. And we can take a look at the one that's defining this one over here. So here it is. And as you can see, this navigation structure has a bunch of different sections. It has this introduction section and user guide section and a bunch of other ones at the bottom. And you can see them represented here in the navigation.yaml. Here's the introduction section, the user guide, so on and so forth. Now, let's take a look at actually what a section looks like. So the first thing here you can see is that this section has a heading. It's actually optional. You don't need to have one, but it sort of nicely divides up the navigation we find. And each section has a number of items. So over here you can see that this overview link, for example, here is defined by giving it a label, which is just overview, and an href, which is the target of that particular link. So in this case, it's pointing to this file called overview.md, which is at the root of our project. And the same thing for the installation guide, it's pointing to a different file and so on and so forth. But now we get to the last one over here, where things get a little bit interesting. So here we actually can see that this is another link. It has a label and an href, so it's pointing to this, actually just a placeholder file in this particular project. But it actually has a bunch of child items, and more than that, it's actually been collapsed by default. So you can see this little arrow here, and you can click it to actually show the links that are defined in the structure here. And if I let me hide this, and if I take away this file or this line and I hit save, you can actually see the child links by default. So yeah, so what this means is that you can actually nest links underneath each other, and any link itself can have another items field, which then will have a list of other links and so on and so forth. And you can actually nest these arbitrarily deeply as you want. We don't recommend you go too crazy. 2 or 3 levels is usually what you want to aim for at maximum. So all of your navigation items don't actually need to be links. You can also add subheadings. And the way you do that is by just adding a item here. Instead of putting a label, you say subheading. And I'm just going to say example here. And if I hit save now, we get this subheading in the navigation structure, and it's like this slightly lighter color compared to the other clickable links here. And if you want, you can also add child items to a subheading, and I'm just going to copy this particular link and put it underneath this subheading just as an example, and you can see there we go, the subheading now has a child, so it acts just the same as regular links as well. Now, to finish off, I want to show you how Doctave can use your OpenAPI spec to generate navigation structures for your OpenAPI reference documentation. So let's take a look at that. In this project, we have this API reference tab. So let's go over here. And you can see that we have a bunch of interesting links here that are generated from your OpenAPI spec. So if I click here, it will take me to this create new infrastructure operation that was defined in that spec. So let's take a look at how this actually works. Let's open up the doctave.yaml for this project. Now over here, you can see that we've included an OpenAPI spec in this project. It's just in the root of this project, and it's called openapi.yaml. And it's being served from this particular URL. Now let's take a look at this file. Let's open up openapi.yaml, and you can see this is just a standard OpenAPI spec, and it has a number of tags defined in it. Now tags are an OpenAPI concept, and tags are used to group relevant operations together. So over here we have, for example, the authentication tag, the users tag, projects tag, and they're used to group specific HTTP endpoints or operations together. And we use this information to generate nice looking navigation structures from your OpenAPI spec automatically. So let's see how this is done. This is the navigation.yaml for this particular tab over here. It's under the API directory. And here you can see that this first section has this Nebularis API heading, and it has one link, as you can see over here. And then it has this API authentication section, and it has only one item with it, and it mentions this OpenAPI spec field. And this is what's actually generating this section over here. And what we're saying essentially is that, hey, I want you to take this OpenAPI spec and take only the authentication tag from inside it and generate all the links for the operations under this tag. And that's what we can see happening here. If I take away this only tag here and hit save, you can see that Doctave actually generates links for all of the operations or all of the tags inside this OpenAPI spec. Let's put that back. And the same is being repeated now for under this resources section. You can see there's a number of other tags mentioned here. And finally, under account management, you do the same thing as well. And the nice thing about this approach is that if you ever add another operation that is associated with one of the tags mentioned here, that's all you have to do. You don't have to update anything in your Doctave project. As long as your OpenAPI spec is up to date, your documentation will automatically match as well. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Happy documenting.